What might it feel like right now to feel completely nourished? The body rested and well nourished. The mind at ease, spacious, and nourished and fueled. Emotions stable, clear, present, nourished. What would that feel like? What would that really feel like sitting in your chair, or if you're on a walk, walking down the sidewalk on your particular walk? What would that really possibly feel like? To feel consistently nourished, to wake up nourished, to go to bed nourished, to make love nourished, to make dinner nourished, to work out nourished. Rather than seeking for the external world to give us something. There's a saying in the Eastern teachings about it's not necessary to light a candle when we're in the presence of the sun. It's redundant. Why would you need to light a candle? There's plenty of light. The sun is shining. And on this planet, planet Earth, the sun arguably is one of the main sources of nourishment for us. So the foods we eat are filled with sunshine, stored sunshine. When we burn wood, we're releasing stored sunlight in the fireplace. So in this place we live, the sun is a main form of nourishment for the physicality, and probably for some of the non-physicality, but we won't go into that in detail right now. We're really focusing on where are we looking for nourishment, and is it truly nourishing? Many of us have spent years or decades or lifetimes confusing poison and nectar. Confusing poison and nectar. Thinking that something is going to be wonderful and uplifting and give us a positive experience, but it ends up being taxing. You know, a lovely first growth Bordeaux, for those of you who can have a drink, is a wonderful thing to enjoy for those whose palate can appreciate a first growth Bordeaux. Drinking 10 bottles of first growth Bordeaux in the space of a couple of hours would leave us maybe dead, but probably with a horrific hangover, headache, shakes, bad digestion, unrested, nervous, unclear. You get the picture. So seeking nourishment from wine isn't really going to ultimately be nourishing. The nourishment is from my inner state, your inner state. And my inner state, our inner state, is given by what we're focusing our attention on from moment to moment to moment. So many of us grew up being told, you know, get the right job, be with the right partner, and so on and so forth, these external markers of happiness and nourishment. But how many people actually feel consistently nourished across the planet who have done those things? They got the degree from the university or several degrees, found somebody that was maybe, you know, voted most likely to succeed, or the homecoming king or queen, or whatever that is in your country, and married them, and are depressed. What we're doing with our attention is key. So the inner work of waking up and growing up is really about dissolving the tension points that set us up to keep focusing on external things that can't give us the nourishment we seek, and repoint our attention inward, so to speak, to the source of energy and nourishment itself. Practicing the feeling of gratefulness, practicing the feeling of compassion, practicing the feeling of love, these are all in the same zone, by the way, and if you have access, practice them now while I'm speaking, are nourishing. But if I have it that I have to date a particular person to feel love, I have to go to a certain temple in a far-off location to experience receiving compassion, I'm dividing up reality. And the truth, and you've heard me speak about this so many different ways and times over the years, every particle in the air around you right now, where you're sitting or standing or walking, has all potential manifestations of form. Energy forms, emotional forms, physical forms, all possibilities are contained in every particle. The source energy that has become orchids and my voice and your shoes is the one same energy that's everywhere, temporarily manifesting as infinite forms without losing any of its original power. So nourishment comes from learning how to sense the original power and align our attention with it while moving through life, while enjoying the temporary circumstances. It's not about hiding out in some monastery up at the top of the Himalayas and never encountering another person. We never really test our state there. It's about learning to manage being attuned to the source of love, the source of compassion, the source of nourishment, while living in these temporary forms, in these temporary bodies, in these temporary situations fully. So it's not about not having fun, but where does fun really come from? Where does love really come from? If love came from hugs and kisses, then anybody who's ever been hugged or kissed should feel profoundly overflowing with love. If nourishment came from just eating anything, then no matter what we eat, we should feel entirely nourished. And I can promise you, bad candy doesn't make me feel nourished. So predominantly, it's our inner state while we're doing any action, while we're doing any activity. What are we giving our attention to? So right now, just get a memory of being someplace in nature. At some point in your life, get a memory of someplace in nature that you found some sense of awe, beauty, wonder. Maybe it was a sunset or a sunrise. Maybe you've had the good fortune to visit Machu Picchu or the Alps or some incredible place in nature that touched you. Maybe you got goosebumps. Your breath deepened. Maybe you held your breath briefly in awe. The heart opened. And for that brief amount of time, there was that felt sense of all is well. Get a memory like this, even if it's just very gentle memory, until you start to feel the feeling. How many times today are you willing to touch this feeling? Using a memory to evoke the feeling and training your brain and your nervous system in going direct for nourishment, going direct for love, compassion, fulfillment, wholeness, self-love. Self-love can be helped along by validation, but some of us have been given tremendous validation, many compliments for our work or the ways we've shown up, but until we've resolved the tension of unworthiness, none of those compliments or validations have landed for us. So again, it comes back to, what are you putting attention on? How are you describing your moments to yourself or other people? Those descriptions are shaping and directing how you feel. Me too. So can we get in the habit of practicing coherent feelings? The more we practice, the easier it gets. When something's new, think about riding a bicycle for the first time without training wheels. Probably felt a little wobbly until you built the inner feeling for balance. The inner feeling for balance couldn't be explained to you, it had to be felt. The work of waking up and growing up is like this. It has to be felt. It's an inner balance, an inner proprioceptive awareness that has to be felt and experienced in many different situations as we continue to grow and release our identification with things that are temporary or false even. If it's true, and it is, that everything is the divine in costume, that includes you. So in any given moment or in this moment, are you identifying with unpleasant or negative thoughts about yourself based on how you describe your history, your bank balance, your relationships with the people who you're in most communication with? Or is it based on touching love itself, touching compassion itself, touching gratefulness itself deeply enough to feel the energy release tension throughout the body, open the breath, open the heart, and rest without seeking anything, When we're truly nourished, in those brief moments we've felt really nourished, we're not seeking anything. The grasping, clinging, and chasing has stopped briefly. And so we're in contentment. There's a clue here. There's a clue here. So if we can find, and we can, my life is bearing proof of it over and over and over again through intense practice. If we can find nourishment within, we can live an entirely different life. Is this landing? We can live an entirely different life. Our seemingly set in stone circumstances can evolve, shift, and change very quickly when we're aligned with something more coherent, more in flow, more nourishing. Now, it may sound like I'm repeating myself. What I'm really trying to do is address this from multiple perspectives until you get the sense of the feeling of it. And you may want to even rewatch this because the real communication's underneath my words. If you're just listening only to the words, you're listening only with the intellect. And where the alchemy happens in transforming our conditions, in transforming our inner condition, in transforming our experience of being alive, is at the level of feeling. Some people have been repeating affirmations. I am wealthy, I am whole, I am happy, I am enough. And felt no different on week 52 than on day 1 of repeating the affirmations. Because they're only being repeated at the mental level, at the level of thought. The feeling is the key. We have to get into what would it feel like if this was already so? What would it feel like to already be in love, deeply in love, resting in love, no fear of loss, no fear of abandonment, no fear of rejection, really in the flow of love? What would that feel like? What might that feel like? Just to be in that as a daily meditation is going to carve new neural pathways in the brain for the possibility of feeling more love without requiring circumstances or conditions outwardly to change. And as we drop more deeply into this spaciousness of love, gratefulness, compassion, nourishment, consistently, we attract entirely different circumstances. People show up around us in entirely different ways. It really works. It really is incredibly mind-expanding to see this happen. And I've been watching, as I've been teaching and working with myself and other people for over 30 years, I see it again and again and again. It works. It really, really works. But it's like that example I've used over and over again about security doors. And I've seen them mostly on banks, probably in certain government buildings around the world, same thing. So there's 2 sets of doors. You're coming in from outside, and there's the first set of doors. You enter a little chamber. And until the first set of doors closes, the inner doors to the inner part of the building don't open. So as long as the outer door is still open, the inner door won't open. Well, this is like that with the practices we're doing. You know, some of you have received empowered mantras, whether from me or from another teacher. You may be thinking the mantra, but you may also be thinking about your grocery list. You may also be thinking about the way somebody looked at you and you didn't feel good about it, and you interpreted it in such a way that something was wrong while you're repeating your mantra. So what you're doing actually is you're not actually accessing the full power of the mantra or the affirmation. What you're doing is you're actually focusing attention on what you don't want and then getting more of the feeling of what it would feel like to have what you don't want. So it really is being rigorous about our inner training, learning how to deeply relax and be vigilant with every thought. Be deeply relaxed and vigilant with every thought. If we're just vigilant with every thought in an ordinary sense, we're grasping, clinging, and chasing. We're tense, we're fearful that we're creating and attracting things we don't want. That gets in the way of the practice. It's just more and more tension. The outer door is still open in that way of doing the inner work. So we have to learn how to relax. I want to remind you, or if you're new to working with me, about the 6 points of softening as a shortcut to relaxing. So just like you're opening a fist with your imagination, soften the soles of your feet with your mind. You don't have to move them at all physically. Just soften them with your imagination, softening the skin, tendons, connective tissue, muscles, all the way to the bone. And as you keep softening the soles of the feet right now, even if you've done this a million times, do it now. There's always more freedom available. As you continue to soften the soles of your feet, soften the palms of your hands at the same time. Soften the four corners of your eyes, inside and outside corners of the eyes. Let them melt like butter on a hot day. Soften the region inside and around your ears. Softer and softer, letting go, letting go, letting go. Enjoying the spaciousness, choosing to feel and enjoy spaciousness. Choosing to feel and enjoy spaciousness and ease. Soften your tongue as it rests deeply in the floor of your mouth, while you also soften all the muscles of the pelvic floor, groin region, sphincter, PC muscle, letting go, letting go, letting go. So you're softening soles, palms, eyes, ears, tongue, pelvic floor, groin region. Let the breath come in a little deeper and go out a little longer. Now go back to the practice we started. Get a memory, doesn't have to be the same one, of some place in nature that really touched you. Someplace beautiful. Maybe it was the green of the leaves catching the sun. Maybe you saw a rainbow recently. Aren't rainbows amazing? I love looking at rainbows. Or a sunset or a sunrise or a shooting star. Infinite possibilities. Watching the deer in your yard sweetly interacting with their young. Who knows? It could be anything, but let it touch you. Wait till you feel the feeling. And keep softening soles, palms, eyes, ears, tongue, pelvic floor, groin region as the breath comes in deeply and goes out slowly. Notice how much easier it is in the condition of softening with deep, slow breathing to feel a chosen feeling. So this is key to the practice. Key to any practice is relaxing, softening, and slow, easy breathing. Then we have more perspective available. We have more bandwidth to see, feel, and adjust along the way. When we're tense, our vision is limited, our sensing is limited, our intuition is limited. In fact, in a state of tension, our intuition is probably just reading our own ego structure instead of actually intuiting something. Take a deep breath. Let go on the exhale. Take a deep breath. Let go on the exhale. Learn to enjoy letting go. What is for us comes to us. We don't have to chase and grind. The more we chase and grind, the more we set up in our nervous system that we have to chase and grind. It becomes a habit, it becomes ingrained. And if it is ingrained in you so far, take heart. The practices are powerful, and transformation can happen quickly and deeply with the willing. It's just about consistency of practice, consistency of practicing love, consistency of practicing compassion. When you feel really, really stuck and the practices don't seem to be touching you, then we want to move into practicing some version of compassion right away. Could you, could I, could we have compassion for anybody else in our same predicament who we care about? Think of people you care about if they were in your same predicament, if they were feeling really insecure, in pain emotionally. Could you have compassion? I want to remind you the difference between empathy and compassion. Empathy turns on the pain center. It's over identifying with somebody's pain and then going into pain with them or our own. Compassion activates the pleasure center. It activates the flow of oxytocin, which is how we feel bonded to others, feel already bonded in a good way, which stimulates the flow of dopamine, the reward feeling in the brain, which stimulates the flow of serotonin, which balances mood. All good things. So could you feel compassion for somebody who feels stuck, who you care about? Yes, you can. And when you begin to feel the feelings of compassion, a softening, an opening, a heartfulness, direct it to your own body-mind. When you start to lose the feeling, go back to thinking of people you care about and something that would evoke compassion distinct from empathy, till you feel it surge again, then direct it back at your own body-mind with breath and softening, and make this a regular habit. Don't wait till things are really dark and intense to start a practice. In fact, when we're feeling really good is the best time to practice. It really, really is. When we're feeling good, We can create leaps because there's less tension in the way. We can grow very, very quickly and deeply when we're feeling good. So practice feeling good. Now, I want to be very, very clear. This is not about spiritual bypassing. This is not about dissociating from things that don't feel good. Many of you know that a couple of years ago, I lost my father and my mother in close succession out of my life. So that was an intense circumstance, and it still is in certain moments. When grief is arising, I need to be able to meet it and hold it with compassion, not stuff it down or avoid it or be afraid I'm going to attract more loss because I'm feeling grief. When I hold the grief in a space of loving kindness, it metabolizes. And eventually it resolves itself, wave by wave. Same with anger or fear or sadness, allowing them to be felt through without adding to their intensity with more stories. Stories of worry, stories of blame, stories of victimhood. Yeah? So we'll leave this here for right now. There's plenty of other videos here you can work with for practice. There's a couple of meditations you can do. There's a guided breath work. Or you can go to my website where there's plenty of guided practices to choose from and more to come. And for those of you who know you're ready for it, and that's some of you who are ready for mentorship, you can go to the private session section of my website and set yourself up for a private session. You don't have to commit to a series. You can go one at a time. But listen inside. Don't just do it performatively. Do one of my courses or retreats or personal sessions. Be inwardly guided. So start by relaxing, softening, breathing, getting a positive memory of a beautiful place in nature that evokes the feelings of beauty, wonder, love, gratefulness. Rest in that, and then ask your key questions, whether it's about working with me, whether it's about taking a particular job, whether it's about going on a particular trip. Create an inner condition that's conducive for clarity and intuition, and trust it. The more you practice, the easier it will be to recognize the intuition and to trust it and follow it. Okay, enjoy yourself. May the fruits of our inner work truly uplift all beings as well as the earth, and may it be so. May we be happy. May we be well, and may we feel loved. I'll see you very, very soon. Enjoy yourself.